All right, welcome back, everybody. Well, today is the day that I get to jump back on Sabrina, and I'm trying to make her as structurally sound as possible. So it's time to get the CF hood mounted on here so that I can actually put all the unibody mounts on here, and I can flip this car upside down with the rotisserie. Started unbolting the rotisserie up at the other shop and bringing it down towards this way so that we can do so. But for now, I want to make everything structurally sound as possible. You know, of course, I can go back and finish up the body work later, but I've got everything extremely close and sealed up. Everything looks really good now. I've gone inside here and I've done all the seam sealing of every single edge that you can possibly think of. Let me turn the light on. There you go. And then you can really get the idea. Like this car is completely sealed from the inside and then sanded, primed, and underneath all of this, I should say, is Pour 15. I've actually grinded all of this out, applied Pour 15, sanded the Pour 15 with 80 grit, and then I went over, seam sealed every edge, every corner, everything. This is all seam sealer. You can see it all, every single everything. I don't want water to get in any crevices. I don't want it to rot, rust, and ruin what's going to happen here. Oh yeah, and by the way, we're not done here. I'm going to go back in here, sand all this out, and then I'm going to throw in some bed liner, some Raptor spray-on bed liner, and we're going to tint it the same color as the car, which will be yellow. So everything's going to match. Everything's going to be perfect. I will throw the exact same paint in that spray-on bed liner, so you won't even be able to tell until you stick your head in there and go, wow, even the bed liner matches the car. So today we are going to start with these braces. Now these braces were on the steel roof. I had to remove them. You can see they were glued here and they are welded on the ends here. These are the places that I actually drilled out all the spot welds. You can see up here, and the braces run straight across here. And then that gives the rigidity of the steel roof, especially on a rollover. You are to remove these braces. Now this one's kind of tinny, but this one is super beefy. As you can see, it's all there. That is the major brace that goes from this pillar to that pillar. That will then strengthen and structuralize all of that section here, giving it more rigidity, which is exactly what they do on the Type RAs, an OEM Subaru model that is released to the public with a warranty. This is how they do it. They take carbon fiber roofs, they put that steel support beams are still in there. Instead of putting the flat steel roof skin on top, they put the carbon fiber skin on top. Everything is all glued into place because obviously you cannot weld carbon fiber. Now, when I say glued, this is the drip edge section. That's the mating section as well as the glass here. This is your glass mating section. Now here's your glass mating section where it would normally be welded on. As you can see, we've drilled everything out and removed that. So that's where all the glue will be. You will have to seal all of this area. You're going to have to. You see how I've grinded down all of the imperfections and whatnot. I want this to be able to be flat, and I want nothing hanging up and piercing the carbon fiber itself. We're going to go through here, and I'm going to seal all of this up so there's nothing that can get in there and corrode any of this. That's all bare steel. It needs to be sealed. So any bare steel needs to be covered before you glue your panel down. Now, also, here's another thing too. You guys see the dimple dyes? I had someone back in the day tell me that dimple dyes were not in OEM cars, and I tried to explain that people have been dimple dyeing cars for ever, removing weight and adding rigidity. But anyway, so back to it. So same thing here, and this is your window surface here. This is where it'll glue on, and then your window will then sit on top of that. So we've still got to do a little bit of some rust removal and whatnot. So we'll get in here with the sandblast gun and we'll sandblast majority of this. But for now, I want to be able to make sure that this edge here is exactly flush with this edge here. So we can't have any wonkiness because it will absolutely show and we'll have issues later down the road. Not just that, let's say we do have some wonkiness in there and it gets glued on. Now you can't hammer it after and straighten it out. You can't do that. You'll just pop and destroy the actual adhesion of that two-part panel bonder. So that's a no-no. You want to make sure everything is perfect. So then they make these nice little tools here, which are called clecos. This is your cleco wrench. And in here, see, I got mine from MRO Tools. You know, they're pretty old, but I bought like 100 of them years back. But they're great. I try to keep them all collective and whatnot. If you don't know what a cleco is, wow, I really need to start filming with the GoPro. This is ridiculous. This way I can at least mount it to my chest. So this is a cleco. All right, so basically, long story short, it is a reusable rivet. That's all it is. So this pin comes down, and actually, it's better to just show you. See if I can do this one-handed. This is a fabricator's trick right here. Grabbing a cleco with one hand. Not easy. So normally we're holding panels and then have to do this. Okay, so this is your cleco. As you push it down, it extends down, and then as it comes back up, you see how it's spreading, and then that will hold it into place and hold your panel into place. So if you drill a little 1/8" pilot hole, depress the piston down on the cleco, push it in through the hole that your pilot hole and the sheet steel, and then you go through and it holds the sheet steel in place. Easy peasy. So that's what clecos are for. Well, here in this instance, we're going to use the clecos to hold the carbon fiber roof to the WRX. So now, that's basically what I'm going to do. It's pretty easy. It's self-explanatory. But for now, like I said, dry fitment is the most important thing. You don't want to get so far along and then have to realize that you didn't do it correct. So we're going to make sure that all of the mating surface is completely flush. That means hammer and dolling. That means taking this roof skin off and on probably 100 freaking times, but you know what? You have to do it. Also, real quick, another thing too. So if you have little spot welded sections, as you can see, these two layers here have come apart, and I can, squeeze them back together. So you need to do so. If this is not solid, as you can see here, it has broken away from the edge underneath and it's starting to separate. This needs to be back together. All right, so you're gonna have to clamp both sides. You're gonna have to come back in here and re-weld this spot weld as well as this section here, just to make sure that these two sections are not gonna come back apart. Now remember, when you glue this two-part panel bonder on here, you put that carbon fiber skin on here, it is gluing to the outside of the skin. It doesn't glue to this inside skin. So this, if it can move, it will absolutely move. And in the process, you'll probably just mess up the bond anyways. So with that said, make sure you go in there and do all the welding that is necessary, grind everything down, and then you are able to make a nice, solid mating surface. Okay, so with the roof skin on there now I have placed it in the OEM placement. Now the best way to find that I have found from installing roof skins is usually to find the old placement of the old roof skin. These are actually molds of OEM skins, so it's really nice to be able to skim off the outer skin of the sheet steel roof skin. And what I do is I label it passenger, and I know exactly the placement that side would go. Then I'm able to match it up to the roof itself, which is, very easy, guys. I mean, I'm making it seem harder than what it is. Basically, you can just set this in here, line it up, boom, lines up. As you can see, everything lines up perfectly. And then the placement. You know that back here where this spot weld was, you can see underneath where that spot weld was. And then you can go through here, articulate this, put it in the exact placement of where it was, and you know that the roof skin below it is where it should be. You're going to want to know this, sheerly because of the glass fitment and because of the moldings that go in here also as well. Now here's another tip that I'll give you also as well. So trim the sides of your roof skins off so that you have them for later for placement, and so everything lines up. But here's the best tip I can give you when it comes to installing these carbon fiber roof skins. So on top, they have the weather strip, which is a big molding, black molding, goes all the way atop, and it stretches all the way down here, as well as this backside down this edge here. So it's one big long molding. It fastens with these metal tabs here. These metal tabs are what clicks on to that molding. And come up here to the front, and on the front has plastic clips that actually go on here, and then that's what holds the front. But in the center, it also has plastic clips, but they snap on to those metal tabs. If you're wondering, these are the metal tabs that are on that top roof skin. They do not come with carbon fiber skins, as you can see. So what do you do to fasten that molding down without having to glue it? Which is, don't glue it. Don't glue it. That's just horrible. That's really bad. Let's say you want to replace it or do something later down the road that's, you ruining the molding by gluing it in there, and risk the chance of damage by removing it later. Or let's say the glue doesn't stick per se, and your molding goes for a nice little ride as you're doing a high-speed run down the highway. So anyways, long story short, let's go ahead and get to the tip. So with the tip, is the best thing to do is you're going to cut these out little tiny squares around it. Then you're going to panel bond these brackets in the exact placement of where they're supposed to go on top of the skin. So you'll just take that little bracket, you panel bond it right into place. And of course you're going to mark with paint marker or whatever you choose on the placement. Once you get everything all placed, make sure you're doing plenty of dry fitment. Dry fitment means you're putting the molding on there, making sure everything fits. If you have to, lay the glass back in here. Put some tape around it and have some tape hold the glass on, and you can get it placed exactly where it needs to be. Drill your holes, put everything in. Yes, it's going to take time, but in all reality, time is money and money is time. So it's well worth it, obviously, because you're paying for it no matter what. So if you don't do it right the first time, it's going to cost you money down the road. So like I said, time is money and money is time. They always go hand in hand, but you don't want to spend more money and give more time on a job when you could have just done it right the first time. So with that said, I'll try and just give you guys as much of my tips from previous experience, and then going across, my own learning transitions. So hopefully these tips help. Try not to talk your head off too much, but honestly, I haven't explained a lot of the things that I do in a long time. So I think that's what I want to do, is I just want to start explaining all the tips and tricks that make my job a lot easier, so that it makes your job a lot easier. Most people don't know how to put these roof skins on, and then they get halfway through and they realize that probably should have done other things, or maybe they give up because it was just too hard. It gets very costly, especially if you got to bring it to another shop. So it is what it is. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump on here. We'll do a little time lapse and we'll see where we are as far as fitment. I'm going to kind of jump around and whatnot. I want to make sure that I've got this exactly where it needs to be. Other than that, we'll get it done. Real quick before we get into that time lapse, I want to show here that I did some manipulation right here on this inside edge. I made this a lot more flat and then brought this all down, so I was able to fit. That snaps in nice and easy, versus the other side I have not even touched yet, so you get an idea of what was done. As you can see, this has more of a lip and an edge. It's a high point that's in there that will not allow this to come down. So I'm going to have to go ahead and manipulate the steel right inside here, just like I did on the other side, so that I can get this to sit down here and get that nice and flush. Once I get this to come down nice and flush, then I'll be able to hammer and dolly this edge here much better. So other than that, it's time to jump around like a chicken with my head cut off.
I see the water rushing in. I see the water rushing in. Wash me away.
The edges all made up, everything's nice and tight, everything's great. Once I get all of the structural pieces put back in there, welded back in there, then I can lay the skin back down on top. We can glue all this panel in. The little bit of light that you can see through here on that center pillar area when we're looking up and through will all be basically panel bonded. All that'll be seam sealed all up and whatnot, so that's fine. You don't have to worry about that section. Other than that, I'm extremely happy with how it turned out. I got it to fit correctly, got it to fit nice. It did take some time, but in all reality, I'm very happy with it. Yeah, so with everything just sitting there without even being welded in, it looks great. Everything looks great. I like it, I like it, I like it. Yeah, I'm so happy now. Now it's time to do some welding and get this structurally sound so that I can actually put this on there. And then basically got to decide whether or not if I want to clear the skin first or if I want to put it on there and then clear coat it later. I got a feeling I'm probably going to end up gluing the skin now, put it on. I'm looking to hook the car up to a rotisserie. So I've got some rust repair, especially down on the bottom and underneath the car also as well, that we will have to get to. So I want to be able to turn the car on my rotisserie. For you guys that don't know what a rotisserie is, think about like a rotisserie chicken. You know how it spins? They have rotisseries for cars. You know, I can bolt it to each end, and then I can flip and rotate the car. It makes it a lot easier for me. I can basically walk up to the car, articulate it to where I need to, lock both ends. It sits there perfectly in place. And then, yeah, I don't have to get on the floor to work. I don't have to work over my head on a two-post lift. I don't have to do any of that. I basically just bring the work down to eye level, which is great, which is why I have a rotisserie, because it's easy. So with that said, let's get some work done.
Wash me away.